We got to wait on the city clerk. We'll get started here in a moment once the city clerk gets back. Good evening. Welcome to a city council meeting. Call the meeting to order. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Huseman.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank.
Present.
Councilmember Madera. Councilmember Alan Thomas.
Present.
Councilmember Noble.
Present.
Councilmember Guardiola.
Present.
Councilmember Hurst.
Present.
Councilmember Grimes.
Present.
Councilmember Smith.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thanks, sir. For the record, we are all present and accounted for. At this time, I'd like the audience to stand and join me in a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Thank you, everybody, for that. Our first order of business tonight is recognitions. Would like to invite the finance staff forward for the GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. I want to thank you on behalf of Finance for recognizing the finance staff for this award. This is the 32nd year that we have received the award. While I want to point out who's here with me. Jim Anderson is on my left. He's our tax manager. You all know Armando Guardiola. Even though he's no longer a member of finance, this is an award for the 2018 CAFR. And he was responsible for management oversight of the audit that year and coordination of getting that document put together. So I wanted him to be here to join us. The day that you received the letter indicating we received the award, Mayor, you had asked me about, how many years we had received it. And I think you had made the comment about, was that considered to be exceptional or not? I jokingly said, of course, I think that's exceptional, but I wanted to share some additional stats. We were able to contact the GFOA and ask for some information. The data they gave us was based on 2017 because they still are handing out the 2018 awards. But at that time, they indicated there were 272 municipalities and towns. For 2017, only 51 received the CAFR Presentation Award, so that's 18.75%. And of those 51 people, 37 of those towns or municipalities have been awarded this award in excess of 20 years. So I just wanted to be able to share some of that data with you to let you know. This is an award we take seriously. Each year when we get the comments, we work very hard to incorporate those comments into the annual financial statements to continue to make it an award-winning document.
Thank you. I appreciate you adding those statistics. That's phenomenal that you guys are in such an elite group with the work that you do, and I know everybody up here appreciates it. So if council will join me, we'll go down and take a picture and present the award to the finance staff for all their hard work and for their excellence in financial reporting. All right, congratulations again to our finance staff on that wonderful award. Next up, we have presentations. The Oil and Gas Monthly Update will be next. Would Dominic Martinelli please come forward to make the presentation?
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'll be giving the Oil and Gas Monthly Update for March. So regarding city oil and gas permit applications, there's been no change since last month. We're currently at 8 submittals that have been given to the city. 7 have been deemed complete and currently being processed. Again, showing the map, no changes from last month. That's the same for the review schedule. So as you can see, we've taken all of the facilities to the DRT. The Anteater facility was postponed a little bit, so that will be going this Thursday to the Internal Development Review Team meeting. Current spacing applications, there have been no changes submitted to the state since last month. The same with Form 2 applications as well as Form 2A applications. And that's the same, and that's reflected here in this map, as there have been no changes since last month. General updates, staff is continuing to work on the oil and gas permit review and coordinating with referral agencies. So we've also begun or in the process of continuing to work on the LDC ordinance. We've made substantial progress on that draft, and it should be released by the end of this week. There will be a 21-day public comment period available for members of the public to comment and provide feedback to the city regarding the draft ordinance. Once that comment period ends, we'll be having a study session scheduled with council on March 30th to discuss the draft ordinance and the general summary of comments that were received during the public comment period. Based on council feedback, we'll be making additional revisions to the draft after that study session, which will be reviewed by Planning Commission on April 15th, and then the ordinance would be presented to council on May 4th. One other update we wanted to provide as well, the city has been approached by another operator, Petro Operating, regarding the negotiating an extraction agreement or regional operator agreement with the city. That inquiry came after the publishing of this presentation, so staff is reviewing the documentation that was provided and will proceed forward on looking at the contents of that submission once it's received. So once we have additional information regarding that, we'll publish it in future updates in the future Oil and Gas Monthly Update as well. We did want to provide you with some additional environmental updates. So there's a couple other items that have been occurring a little bit outside of oil and gas. The city is planning to partner with the City and County of Denver, Adams County, and Tri-County Health Department on a joint grant submission for the EPA Air Toxins Grant. So this is a grant opportunity that's published on a somewhat infrequent basis, but would provide funds to establish air quality monitoring stations in the areas of North Denver, Elyria, Swansea, unincorporated areas around Adams County, and then kind of core Commerce City. So the actual location of where potential monitoring stations hasn't been decided yet, but if the grant is awarded to this joint partnership, that would be explored through a significant amount of community engagement and involvement, ideally surrounding Adams County and Commerce City's joint comprehensive planning efforts. So just wanted to give you a heads up that was in process at the moment. And then staff is working to prepare an RFQ and an RFP for our environmental staff services. So not only to advise on some of these oil and gas air quality monitoring efforts, so this is going to be more of a highly technical environmental engineer of some kind that has the ability to go and do technical water quality analysis, air quality analysis, all of the specific details to that, but also some efforts to help come up with strategic development regarding an overall environmental framework and planning guidance document for the city. So basically identifying the issues in the community and significant organization of that information and help develop an overall long-term framework to improve environmental quality and community health outcomes. So to give you a scope of what this is long-range effort. So this is going to be probably over the scope of multiple years to come and establish what that framework looks like and what efforts are undertaken. And then it would outline a number of policy recommendations that the city could implement on air quality issues, water quality issues, just general overall energy efficiency, brownfield redevelopment, hazard mitigation planning, a lot of those types of things, and then help develop a community education campaign around the issues and come up with presentations and tie that into the current long-range efforts that the city's working on at the moment. With that being said, I'm available to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilman Wadiola.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 21-day comment period, how are residents going to be able to make those comments, revisions?
So we're providing a number of opportunities regarding public comment input. So we're going to be doing a combination of both hard copy and digital. So providing a link for those that want to provide hard comment or written comments to the city. We're not going to be, it has to be in some sort of written format where we're able to go back, excuse me, and look at the actual comments that are provided. We're going to be going to a number of the rec centers here in the core city, as well as the Northern Range, libraries, all of the public facilities, and actually have a physical copy on hand for anybody that wants to check out a copy of the draft regulations and provide written comment as well. We're also going to be, in the April Commerce City Connected, posting an additional link. So we're going to be taking in the feedback that's received during that 21-day public comment period and then bringing that all to you and digesting that information. But we really don't have a hard deadline until Planning Commission, and then those folks that may not have had an initial opportunity to provide comment at that time can actually come and speak in person at the Planning Commission and then the eventual City Council meetings. We're also exploring some form of educational video of some kind. It'll be kind of like a work through and understanding that this document is going to be 150 pages of technical red lines that the typical individual isn't going to be able to or going to want to go through and read in depth, providing something that makes it extremely clear what these changes are compared to the original draft, but also the draft that was, or the current code, and kind of walking folks through some of those changes and helping to digest that information.
Thank you. My concern is it starts March 6th. When are we going to get that out to our residents so they know that they're going to be at Eagle Point, Bison Ridge, or the library? I mean, 4 days, that's my big concern, that it starts March 6th. By the time we get notice to our residents that, hey, we're going to be here, if we don't have those scheduled now, I just really think that we're really shortening our residents' input, that if they find out about 2 weeks, that just the timeline's shorter. So I hope we have a plan saying, hey, it is a little, March 6th starts the 21-day comment period, and we're going to be at here. So the residents that don't have access to computers could go physically. So I hope we could get that schedule. And when you do, if you could send it ASAP to us. Thank you.
Councilwoman Noble.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Martinelli, for the report. Just for the sake of people who have some familiarity with the oil and gas applications, the application that is potentially pending would be Antelope, is that correct? For petro operating?
Yes, that would be the Antelope facility.
Okay, so that is on Highway 2, just north of 104th between the Aberdeen and the Turnberry Meadows subdivisions.
To clarify, it's west of 104th Avenue. It's as you're going down 104th Avenue, where you would turn off to Peoria Street, past the Aberdeen townhomes, there's a 90-degree bend in Potomac. Mm-hmm. So it's essentially in between Highway 2 and I-76 on Potomac Street.
Okay,
And
but
that
between those neighborhoods?
Yes.
Just a quick interruption. Do you mean Peoria Street?
Yes, Peoria Street.
Correct. I'd also like to ask about the air quality monitoring, which is a wonderful idea. Thank you so much for doing that. I do hope, though, that we could have one in the north end that could serve as a baseline for future reference. We are every time we look out at the horizon and see either yellow, or orange, or brown skies, we're actually in it ourselves. So if we could have something for in the north, if that's a possibility, that would be great. I want to piggyback on Councilmember Guardiola's ideas. Those were all very great ideas, but I'm also wondering, why is there a May deadline for the regulations? Who is asking for that date?
Regarding the adoption date?
Yes.
So I believe, based on the previous study sessions and the feedback that we collectively received from council, that was generally where the adoption date was targeted. So it would go to planning, or it would go to city council for first reading on May 4th, and then would go back on second reading 2 weeks later, and then would be adopted as law 10 days following that.
I don't recall this conversation during this current city council. Perhaps it was the previous city council. The May date concerns me because of the COGCC's rulemaking, and they might not have it in place by then. And there doesn't seem to be a particular rush unless you're now considering the antelope pad a rush, in which case we need to be thinking about perhaps a moratorium again, because we really need to have the time and place in order to have the highest and best standards for our residents, and there's no sense rushing. And I have a final question, which is about Extraction's financial viability. Their stock has been on a precipitous drop for the, well, probably last couple of years, but definitely the last several weeks, and it closed at 64 cents a share today. What do we have in the ROA with them that guarantees our protection should they, as a company, fail and leave anything behind in the process that they may have already begun, any of the work that they may have begun?
So there are requirements within the regional operator agreement for performance sureties and performance bonds for that, in that specific instance, where if there is a transfer of assets, if a different company comes in, there is some performance bond to go in and shut in wells that may need to be shut in or do additional reclamation. So there are provisions as it pertains to a scenario where there is some sort of financial setback during operations.
And if they would sell the company, for example, sell their assets, what is the plan in the ROA? Does the plan go to the new owner? Does it begin again? How does that process work? I've been unable to find the exact language in the ROA.
So in that,
Other than succession, and it looks like the new company gets everything the same.
so in my reading of the regional operator agreement, I don't have the specific section in that code to point you to it, but there is a provision regarding transfer of the regional operator agreement in the event the operator chooses to transfer those assets, and that's assuming that permits have been issued or something along those lines. There would be some form of re-review by the city as to the regional operator agreement and its applicability to a future operator.
Re-review and applicability to a new operator, basically, is what you're saying.
So yeah, so the city would, so it wouldn't be an automatic transfer of the regional operator agreement to a new operator. There would be some level of city review involved.
Well, it is concerning regarding the financial stability of the company, particularly in their ability to actually meet standards for health, safety, and welfare. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Mr. Martinelli? Seeing none, we will move on. Thank you, sir, for your time this evening. Thank you for the presentation and the update. Next up will be a presentation from Suncor. Would Mr. Donald Austin, Suncor Vice President, come forward to make his presentation?
1 second, Donald. I gotta get you.
Honourable Mayor and members of the Council, first of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity this evening.
Donald, before you get started, I just want to mention to the council and let them know that Mark McMillan, the Deputy Director of Air Quality Division for CDPHE, is also here in the audience tonight, and Donald and Suncor invited them to join us.
Thank you. This evening, I'd like to speak about three things. First one is about the December 11th incident that happened. Second is around requests from yourselves to better understand the regulatory authorities and rules and regulations around the refinery. So I'd like to take some time and take you through that. And also look a bit at the recent Commerce City refinery performance against some of these regulations. So that's what I'd like to cover. First, and before I start on the incident on December the 11th, I want to say to everyone here on behalf of Suncor and everybody at the refinery, we apologise for this incident because simply put, it should not have happened. It was totally avoidable. We've learnt from this, and our aim is not to let this happen again or anything similar. We can do better, we want to do better, and we will do better. And I first want to say that up front before I start this presentation. Let me take you back to December 11th. The background to this is that we had shut down the number 2, that's Plant 2 FCC, back in the late days of November, just after Thanksgiving. That was shut down to do preventive maintenance that we do on an annual basis. This incident happened on the restarting of that unit. And basically what happened was we introduced too much torch oil, which is a source of fuel, in one time into the reactor. And in doing so, we caused the conditions inside the reactor to be unstable. That in its own wasn't the cause of the incident. We then went on thinking we could correct that. And at a point in time, we managed to take the catalyst out of the reactor into our separators and then eventually discharge that as you see in the photograph there. That's what the incident was. As soon as that happened, we initiated our emergency response. We went to the community, tested the atmosphere. Over a few hours, shut down that unit, made it safe. And then we initiated an investigation. And what I wanted to speak through tonight is what that investigation found, what we're doing about it, and our steps forward. To do the investigation, we brought in from our headquarters in Calgary a couple of experts in FCCs to help us understand what had gone wrong. And simply put, there was three things. The first was the introduction of too much torch oil, something that hadn't been covered in our procedures, but is now, and going forward, we have a process to ensure that won't happen again. But that simple incident on its own didn't cause the full chain of events. As we went forward, we should have stopped and we didn't. We had an opportunity to stop at that point, but thinking we could correct the situation, we continued on. And that led us into the point where you see the discharge that's in the photograph. Something we could have stopped, something we should have done better in. And part of that reason for not stopping was a belief that we could correct it, poor communication that we could correct it, and not the right intervention to stop at that point in time. So three things together caused this incident. The introduction of too much torch oil, not stopping, and then not having the authority, or not the authority, the responsibility to make sure the right thing was done at the time didn't happen. That's what was behind the incident. As we also, as we also went forward in the communication with the community, we learned that it wasn't timely enough and could be improved. And that's something outside of this investigation we're taking forward and taking action on. So, having found these things, we took corrective actions. We updated our procedure. We stopped with all the teams, and in the procedure, we inserted hold points. So you move to this point, you stop, you check, you make sure you make sure that you have the right permission to go to the next step. And then that systematic way, we can control and improve the startup of this unit. We met with all our teams, with our experts, and took them through that. And that took us through to around about December 20th, when we were ready to restart. And then, as we started to prepare for the first time, we were in some of our pre-startup checks. In the very first minutes of the next startup, we identified that we had some oil at drain points that was unusual, something we were not used to seeing. This time the team did stop. This time the team stepped back, looked at what needed to be done, called in some help, and then assessed the situation. And what we decided to do was to stop the complete startup, look at emptying the whole unit, doing some further checks, assuring ourselves everything is what it should be, and then go back to reinitiate the startup. And that took us through to about January 5th. And on January the 5th, we restarted. And we restarted successfully. And the reason you see in the slides of these circles, when they talk about seek knowledge, adhere to procedure, ask questions, expect accountability, collaboration, that's the behaviours that we want to institute and are reminding people of that we need as we start these units up. It's not just simply following the procedure, it's understanding what the next step is, the actions you need to take, and not feeling under pressure to get things done. And through that change, we managed to start the unit up, and it has run successfully since then. I'll stop there and I'll invite any questions you have on this subject before I go to the next topic.
Any questions for Mr. Austin? Reid?
The second topic I wanted to talk about was about the regulations that sit around the refinery, the laws, the rules, how we report these, how enforcement is taken against it, and give you an overview. I got some feedback that this would be useful information for you. And I would say the regulations sit at two levels, one at the federal level and one at the state level. And if I first go through at the federal level and just going down the sort of key laws, there is more laws than I have up here that are enforced, but the key ones that are around the refinery, and in particular its environmental performance, are associated with, the first is the Clean Air Act that regulates air emissions. The second is the Clean Water Act that regulates our discharges to watercourses. The third is the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act that gives the EPA the right and gives us the rules on how to control hazardous waste, so any waste that we have that needs to be disposed of. The next one is the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Action. This is created to help the community understand what chemicals is in the refinery and how we would deal with an emergency. There's also the Toxic Substance Control Act, which looks at specific chemicals and requires registration, documentation, and follow-up on their use. Then we have the Department of Transport that looks at the regulations and guides us on how to transport our fuels, whether it be by road, rail, or pipeline. They govern us there. And then we have the National Fuel Standard that looks at the products we make and makes sure that they're made to the right quality standard. So these laws are enforced in the refinery, and these are the key ones that look at the operation in terms of our performance. The way in which we report against that is firstly and mainly self-reporting, where through a series of reports that we produce, whether it be annual reports, some immediate reports in terms of something that's gone wrong, quarterly, monthly, we report these into the different agencies that you see on the slide there. So self-reporting is the first step in that. The second step in that is about enforcement, where the agencies like the EPA, the FRA, the Federal Railroad Administration, they can audit, they can inspect, they can check, and they do on a regular basis do their audits and inspections, and they direct us through these through consent decrees. So I'm trying to describe that there's 3 layers that sit around the regulations. First, the laws themselves. Second is the self-reporting. And third is the auditing and checking that's done against them. So that's the sort of framework we see for federal regulations. If I flip to state regulations, which tend to be enforced here through CDPHE, and we have a member here from the Department of Public Health and Environment tonight, they really get down to some of the details within these federal laws that are passed down to the state, and also where the state adds its additional recommendations, and then these are taken through using the same 3 pillars: outlining the requirements, what is in the law, self-reporting again, and then enforcement. And here you can see things like the Colorado Air Pollution Prevention and Control Act, which really establishes all air quality programs that we have to meet. We also have the Water Control Act, similar thing for all water programs that we have to meet. The Air Quality Control Commission itself oversees these programs and ensures that they're advised to us and we are informed of them so that we can follow them. We also see the Air Pollution Control Division. They issue the Title V permit. And the Title V permit is where these things are brought together into one document so we can all see what the targets are that we have to be below and the rules are around our operation. Similarly, the Water Control Commission looks at the responsibilities around water quality that goes into public waterways. And as I go down there, you'll see the same for wastewater discharge. You'll see the same for regulations to do with emergency planning. And also, these can be enforced through consent decrees that come from the EPA. So again, a number of agencies within CDPHE guide us, direct us on the limits, and in the main tends to get into our water and our Title V permits is where the guidance comes from. The second part to that is self-reporting. And what you'll see here, there's much more structure in the self-reporting here to Colorado State in comparison with the federal authorities. And the difference is any exceedance in a permit would be called in immediately and followed up by a report the next day. Whereas before it was done by audit and we wait for the results there. Here it's done immediately and follow-up required. And that then, is also then we report quarterly, biannually, and annually against the different standards, reporting out where we were above, where we were below, what the operation of the unit was through that period of time. And sometimes that period is 3 months, some it's 6 months, some can be as little as a few days. We follow these regulations through self-reporting. And then the enforcement that comes with that is through inspection. Some are annual, some are quarterly, some are ad hoc that come through CDPHE. And from that, the inspection reports come compliance advisories and compliance orders. And that again is a system that regulates the refinery. So very similar system, just a lot more detail and a lot more scrutiny at the state level against the specific permits. I'll stop there if there's any questions around how we're regulated.
Councilwoman Noble?
Thank you very much for being here tonight. I know it must be very difficult to have an industrial facility that has been encroached on over the decades. It's even older than I am, and which is hard to imagine, but it's been here a long time. It's been in Denver's backyard and Commerce City's front yard. What about the incidents that were self-reported in January? And have there been any incidents self-reported in February? And in addition, could you please tell us the status of your negotiations over the 100 air quality violations? the negotiations with the CDPHE?
Okay,
Thank you.
let me just break these down. If I look at year-to-date reported incidents, I think there was 4 or 5 in January and 2 in February. This is to the best of my knowledge. It was in that order. Most of these are being associated with flaring and thermal, the actual thermal value of the flare not being at the right place, or some smoky flaring. That's what they've been associated with. So we've had 6, possibly 7 in the first 2 months of the year. That's the status today. You asked about negotiations with CDPHE. We have self-reported the incidents to them. These go back more than just last year. They go back a few years. We've been answering their questions, giving them clarification. And I think we're at the point today where they have all the information they need to decide on the next step. And I'm waiting to hear that from them. So we're at that point. My expectation is that'll be very soon. We've been cooperating, we've given information, we've been clarifying. I think it's now at the point where we need to hear from them. What does that mean? That's where we are today.
Is that all? Councilman Wadiola?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Austin, for the information. I got a couple things. On slide 4, one of your circles is collaboration or collaborate. And I love that you put that in here. But then when we move to the next 2 slides, I don't see the city of Commerce City or Adams 14, the school district. My question is, how do we be better partners? And if you're self-reporting and notifying people, CDPHE, the next day, how do we come together as a city, district, and our corporate partners, because you are in our city, and get that information so the residents that live down the street, the new school that's getting built down the street, gets notifications, and we don't hear it from the news or other sources. I think we have some room to grow. I think Suncor could be a great corporate partner. It's been in our city long before my family moved here. And when I'm looking at this, and this is the first time I saw this, I don't see the city or the district. So I think that's something that I think we could definitely work together and get the district involved, get the city involved, especially with the self-reporting. I think with that, letting us know. So, I mean, I appreciate the information. I hope you guys could go back to your board and say, hey, how could we work better with the city and the district? My big concern is there's an elementary school that's going to be right down the street from you guys, closer than it already is. And we have neighbors down the street. So when something like that happens. The second point is what Ms. Noble's talking about. We hear it from all over that there's this many violations or whatever you want to call it, but we don't see that, right? We get a quarterly report, if that, from you guys, and it's a presentation on the big incidents. And those are great, but it's small incidents that also affect our residents and our citizens, right? That's the thing that, again, when we hear this from the outside, how could we be good neighbors and good partners and be proactive? So those are just 2 comments I kind of wanted to bring to your attention to become better partners and really collaborate and hit that circle with 2 main stakeholders.
Can I just elaborate on that?
Definitely, sir.
Yeah. So absolutely, I would love to collaborate better than we are today. I think there's much room for improvement. I want to do that. If you actually go back to the very first piece in there, we talked about key community communication. I think that's part of it, both real time and with follow-up. In terms of the reporting we tend to do on a day-by-day basis, we do that through the regulations as they're written, to the authorities as written. We would want CDPHE also to be involved in that collaboration, so equally that we're not doing things 2 and 3 times over and doing it once, be efficient about it. I'm absolutely all for that. I'm willing and wanting to work with you on it. transparency, I think, is absolutely key here. What happened, what is happening, what we're doing about it is a way of building some trust and showing improvement. And without that collaboration, I can't get there. And I'd like to do that.
And I appreciate that, but I think sometimes because of what's happened in the history, waiting until you guys are made to report it to me and many of our citizens, like, maybe being proactive, and I get it. You guys got a lot of regulatories and you want to be transparent, but just be more proactive and sending the city and the district, hey, we had this incident, we're looking into it, we send it to CDPHE already. That to me shows a lot of trust to our residents, saying, you know what, they're not that bad, right? They're really working towards it. They don't have to report that until CDBH or HE asks them to, but they're being proactive with their neighbors. But I appreciate that, and I look forward to working with you guys because I think it'll happen.
I think it will happen too as well, and I think it will make a big difference. Can I just elaborate on one little thing there? One of the things is we tend to over-report. We will report something and then find out it's not quite what we thought. And we tend to take that approach. I'd equally take that approach with yourselves. If we're not sure, we'll report it. Then if it turns out to be something different, sometimes we might have an instrument that's reading wrong. And actually isn't an incident, but until we have calibrated and checked it, we don't know. So we'll report, and then with CDPHE ourselves will explain what happened. I'd still want to take that approach.
Any other questions for this point of the presentation? Thank you, sir. You can proceed.
I wanted to talk now just about some of the history around air improvements, some of the history and future around water, and a little bit about Sand Creek and the incident that happened a few years back and where we are there. If I start with air emissions and air improvements, if you look at air improvements, they basically fall into two categories. There's those improvements that we've made to the fuels we make, and there's those improvements we've made to the refinery in reducing its emissions. And if I look at the fuel changes over recent years, you'll see that there's sulfur reduction in the fuels. There's benzene reduction in the fuels. There's the introduction of renewable and biofuels blending in to reduce the carbon footprint. This is something that we believe actually makes the emissions from the fuels less of an environmental issue. So there's been work not just around the refinery, but about the products we make to reduce that over recent years. I would also say if I look at the refinery in terms of the reductions we've made in air emissions, they come into the category of, if you look at reducing NOx, if you look at the reduction of the better combustion within the flare system, and also if you look at, for instance, refinery sector rules, which look at us recycling more of our material and making sure it either goes to a flare or back into the process. In recent years, you'll find we've made lots of advances in these areas. So we continually look to improve, and there's more to come. And we believe that the refinery and the industry needs to stay on that continual improvement sort of journey such that we get better each time. If I also take a look at benzene, because I know that's come up in communications. A couple of years back, we decided to put fence line monitoring in. That monitoring is there. And to your point of transparency and openness, these results are available. So not just about reporting what we do in terms of emissions and through the law, we also want to be transparent in sharing that data, make that data available to people so they can see the results of it and they can see that there is no issues, that the fence line monitoring hasn't picked anything up of substance that would be anything to worry about since we started. We'd also want to share that with you. And then if I look at the future, and there's probably two key things for Colorado in the future that we need to collaborate, work together and resolve. And one is reducing ozone in the state. The ozone level is above the federal limit in the summer, and we're working collaboratively with the RAC, the Regional Air Quality Council, and looking at options that will help to reduce ozone. So we're proactive in working with them. And if I look at regional haze, many of us look out over Denver and see occasionally that brown haze that sits over the city. That's caused by NOx, caused by SOx, caused by particulate matter. Again, we're working with CDPHE. How can we in the refinery change our technology, improve our operation to reduce these, to reduce haze and to reduce ozone here in Denver? So I think we have a track record of getting better, and we have things that we want to do to continue to improve. That's what my message there is around air improvements. If I take to water, recent history would show that we've considerably increased our water treatment plant. We've also, in the process of doing that, we're not just processing water that goes through the refinery, but also a large amount of the groundwater that we've been picking up and cleaning before we discharge it goes through this wastewater treatment plant. I know some of you have visited, seen it. We're really proud of this facility because the difference it makes to the quality of water, and especially the reduction around mercury, arsenic, selenium, that we've seen transformational changes in the last few years. And we continue to work on these. I don't think it stops there. I think there's more technology we'll need to do to further reduce selenium, and we can see that being introduced in the next couple of years. And the other thing that I know causes concern at the moment is around chemicals called PFOS and PFOA. These are fluorinated chemicals that are traditionally found in firefighting foams in places like refineries and airports and so on. We have this year, or last year, sorry, we took out all our firefighting foams and replaced them with ones that don't have PFOA and PFOS content. So we can't continue to make the problem worse. And we're looking at technology to clean up our own soil within the refinery. So anything that's been there for a long time, we can wash, clean, collect, filter, and we're looking to do that and improve in that area. So again, we're working to improve not just last year, but we see that happening every year and going forward. I just wanted to point out to people that there's both air and water improvements that we've been looking at. And lastly, if I could just take us back to 2011, and let me explain these two maps that are on here. The map showing September 2013. The coloured area goes beyond the refinery. The refinery, if you like, is defined by the lines to the north and to the east and west of us. And there you'll see in September 2019, there's a little blue patch just to the northwest of the refinery that we still haven't got to where we need to be. Everything else is contained within. And within the refinery, what the first thing we did was we built defences. Defences you don't see, they're actually under the ground. We put walls, we put barriers, so it would contain anything, any water within the refinery gets held within the refinery. Then we can pump it up, we can treat it. So we've contained it in-house, if you like, first. Our next step was then to go outside the refinery, and we drilled about 1,000 wells, injected water down, brought it back up, treated it, continually cleaning up the soil from the incident. Now, it takes a long time. We've gone from somewhere around over 10,000 micrograms per litre down to now somewhere in the region of 1 to 5. That's 1 to 5 parts per billion. And as you go and do that, you start off, you make great progress, but like everything, it tails off. Getting that last few pieces is more difficult than the first because you're cleaning to such a low level, a high standard. But I think what you can see there is we're almost contained totally within the refinery now. And our attention now turns inside the refinery to clean that up. That's where we're going. These things take a long time to resolve. We are committed to finish this work, and we've spent a considerable amount of money doing this. And I think the technology we've used has been sort of, for refineries, groundbreaking in terms of working with universities, working with different people to use modern techniques to clean up as quick as we can. But my message here tonight is we're not finished till there's no colour on that map at all, and we remain committed to get there.
Thanks, sir. Any final questions for Mr. Austin? Councilwoman Noble?
Thank you again. That was very thorough. You're talking about water wells.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And also, how much of these chemicals do you think might enter South Adams County Water and Sanitation District water and need to be treated, since we do operate on our fresh water, if you will, comes from groundwater?
I don't think anything I'm showing there contaminates these sources. We have them under control. We continually talking to Metro, Denver Water, to other areas, working through CDPHE. I think the barriers we've put in place have contained it within the refinery, and the water used within the refinery is not going into the drinking water system. It's cleaned up through our own water treatment plants. So I'm like 99.9% sure it's contained, but we're always checking. We're always trying to make sure. We're always nervous in case anything's getting past our barriers. But I don't think there's anything significant or anything actually passing them.
How deep are those hanging walls?
It's a good question. You know, I got a bunch of people who can give you the answer and off the top of my head, but they go down a fair way. And but I'll get the information back to you.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I just have one last question for me anyway, which is, what would you suggest to Commerce City for us to protect our residents' health, safety, and welfare when it comes to air and water and potential incidents, weather explosions, and within what distance perimeter are we talking about?
That's a big question. So what would I suggest? I would say, first of all, let's bring transparency to what is done today, what actually happens, what controls are in place. I think the first thing would be people would be surprised at the level of control, and I think it would give them some reassurance. So my first thing would be, let's share the information and what's actually going on. A lot of the details you described are actually there in emergency plans. The details are out there. They're shared with Adams County. They're shared with the relative emergency associations around the refinery. And I think we practice them. And again, that information I think would be good for everybody to know. I think we're not as transparent in what we do. And all these things you'll see as we do exercises, as we work with these agencies, we find room for improvement. So saying to them, here's the things that need to be improved, and again, being transparent about it and show people it happening, I think that's the way to go. I guess what I'm saying is, I think the rules we have in place work. I think if we share more of the information that goes with it, and we monitor and follow up with it, I think everybody would be much more comfortable and reassured where we are today.
Well, I hope it's something. Thank you very much. I hope it's something because it gives me great concern that we have residents who are suffering who live in the area. I know you are a major employer. You are an important revenue generator for Commerce City. So it is a fine balance, of course, but I tend to lean towards the health and safety of our residents first. So anything that we can do, that you can help us do to protect them is what is paramount.
You've got my commitment to do that. For us also, our neighbours to live and be able to trust and not in fear of the refinery is what we desire to have.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you, sir. We look forward to seeing you next quarter, which should be probably the first meeting in June. Thank you for your time this evening and your presentation. Next up will be the Commerce City Business Professional Association Awards and Recognition. Will the representatives from the CCBPA please come forward to present your awards and recognitions?
We're just waiting for a hand mic. Okay. So, hello, City Council members, Mr. Mayor. Hello, City Manager. So we're so excited that you're allowing us to do this here. It's such a special occasion for us. Little bit later, after we have our awards presentation, we're going to have a short presentation of what the CCBPA is. I know that a number of you are new to City Council and even new to Commerce City. So the most important thing you need to know about us is that we've been around for 44 years, and we're the longest running civic organization in Commerce City. And City of Commerce City has been with us that entire time. They were one of our founding members. So what we have here tonight is our CCBPA, that's what we call ourselves, the Commerce City Business and Professional Association. We have our awards for Business Persons of the Year, Volunteers of the Year, and Special Recognition. So the first one that we have, I would like to call up Bimbo. Would everybody from Bimbo come up, please? Why don't you have your whole group come up? This is they don't, well, they need to. So this is the lovely Diana Martinez, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about, come on up, and I want you to introduce who's here.
Okay. This is my coworker, Bora Johnson, my supervisor, Lou Rossi, my coworker, Angel Cisneros, a coworker, Debbie Laser.
And a couple came from far away.
Mm-hmm. So Lou is here from Phoenix, Arizona with us today. He's our supervisor. And Dave Ojan is sitting here taking pictures. He's from Nebraska. I don't know what town.
So as Maria can attest from the fire district, Bimbo has been there for everyone. And it actually is very emotional for me because they just don't open their arms and give us wonderful things so we can have our events. By the thousands, by the way. They actually come to our events. I'll give you a for instance that's really on my mind. This past year, we had Trick or Treat Street at Adams City High School, and that's where all the kids in the community come. And what they do is they actually come. So can you imagine looking 1,000 kids in the eye as they're coming by hysterically in all of their costumes? And they are so loving and caring. And the other thing, I've been in their store many times for many different reasons. They treat the residents of Commerce City and Adams County with the utmost respect. And so it is with great pleasure that we present the 2019 Business of the Year to Bimbo Bakeries Outlet Store, Diana Martinez and her crew, and everyone at Bimbo. Congratulations. Yeah, let's do some pictures here. Yeah, stay up here. Yeah, we're going to take a group picture a little bit. So our next one, Mayor and Council and residents of Commerce City, family and friends, are two of the most wonderful people you will ever meet in your life. Today somebody said to me, we were talking about when I met one of them, and they are people that the first time you meet them, you feel like you've known them your whole life, and they're your friends forever. And these two people are, where are they? Colonel Heery and Sergeant Major Reed from the Adams City High School ROTC, Junior ROTC. And I want you to know the first thing that's going to shock you, Mayor, about Colonel Heery is that he drives every day all the way from Colorado Springs to take care of these kids. Sergeant, these two are a team. That's what they've taught these kids at the high school. This is an award-winning ROTC, and in my opinion, the pride and joy, and not only just mine, the pride and joy of Commerce City for all these years. And you have done an amazing job. You have taught these kids integrity, honesty, how to work hard, how to be people, how to lead others as they grow in life. And I know many of them that have gone on have done wonderful things in their life. So our Commerce City Business and Professional Association would like to award you to the Persons of the Year. So now, we've never done a volunteer of the year, but these two people have half a century of volunteering, and especially one of them always behind the scenes, the first person to come, the last person to leave, always holding everybody up. And that is Patty Teeter. She's been working with the fire district on their spaghetti dinners to raise funds for the last 44 years. Rick, I am guessing somewhere in the neighborhood between 14,000 and 15,000 volunteer fire calls. Did you hear what I just said? I don't know anybody that's done anything 15,000 times, let alone fire calls. So we would like the Commerce City Business and Professional Association. Patty, Rick gets all kinds of recognition. Here is your very own Patty Teeter, Volunteer of the Year. And should I call you retired Mayor Pro Tem? Should I call you retired Fire Chief? Just retired. And here, Mr. Rick Teeter, thank you for everything that you both have done for this city. I can guarantee you, because I've been around long enough, this city would not be what it is today except for these two people. So I've got one more. And this is the Kathy Struey family. And where are they? Here is Miss Kathy Struey herself. Now, we are giving this, we've never given this award either. This is total special recognition of an accomplishment that is mind-boggling. This woman, for Winterfest, listen to this, Mr. Manager. They bake like 1,000 cookies to give away at Winterfest. Now think about that. And she's been doing this decades, because 21 years. Can you imagine the love that she has shown? So if we get like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 children, how many children she has ministered to and served? God bless you, Kathy Struey. And we have this beautiful, and thank your family, because I know they're all involved in this. And you will see her again at Winterfest. So, Mr. Mayor and City Council, if you would come down, we have an award for you. Okay. She's the president. So, as I said, the City of Commerce City has partnered with CCBPA for all of these 44 years. And we are very grateful because your partnership allows us to take care of many families, the whole city. And you saw that yourself just at Winterfest. And we're busy doing other things. So we would just like to offer this very simple plaque to you. And thank you very much for all that you've helped us with all these years. I did forget something. I would just like to call up Paul Sandos. Oh, here he is. He has his own remarks while we get ready.
Thank you, Reba, City Council. Just to take a second, I'm the interim principal at Adams City High School now, and I just wanted to say hi and acknowledge the two gentlemen that just walked our lives up to be better. Both of them, as you know, if you've read in Scripture, Scripture tells us to be a great leader, you must first be a servant. These gentlemen have served us as U.S. Marine Corps members when they were in the Corps, and now continue to serve the entire city and county with the work they do with our children. I got to see the inspection the other day of 150 kids. Now they all have 500 Facebook friends, but if they just have 10 regular friends and they take their message, we've now touched the entire school. So thank you, Sergeant Major Colonel Herring. Thank you, guys.
Councilman Guardiola?
Yeah. I just want to say a few words about the two gentlemen that were recognized, had the honor and privilege to get to work with Lieutenant Colonel and Sergeant Major for 3 years. And I truly could say they're amazing individuals. They have been the consistency that we've needed and still have through all the many transitions that Adam 14 has gone through. So thank you guys for what you do with Commerce City and our students. Thanks.
Any other council members wish to address this presentation at this time? Seeing none, I would like to thank everybody from the CCBPA as well as everybody that came in the audience. Would like to congratulate all the award winners, especially Lieutenant Colonel and Sergeant Major, for all your hard work and dedication to the youth of our community. Want to thank everybody that came out to witness this. I think that events like this are very important for everybody to enjoy. It's something that hasn't been done to my knowledge in this setting, so I greatly appreciate you guys coming here and sharing these awards with us and letting us partake, as well as presenting us with an award as well. When you have an organization that is as committed to the community as your organization is, it's very easy to partner with, and I look forward to seeing the great things that come in the future. To include Winterfest, which will be the first Saturday in December, and I'm hopeful that there will not be any other events that take place on the same day. Looking at our city staff while I make that comment. So thank you again for your time. Appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you. I think one more thing,
We just have our short
presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for letting us take a moment to tell you a little bit about the Commerce City Business and Professional Association. I will tell you, when I arrived in Commerce City 6 years ago, my predecessor said you have one thing to do, and that was to show up and start stuffing bags for the Winterfest so that we could give all these little bags of candy and fruit and toys to all the children in Commerce City. A little bit about CCBPA. As you've heard, and you're going to hear it over and over again, we've been around for 44 years. One of the things that we're very proud of is our long-term partners. Obviously, we just presented you with an award for 44 years of partnership, and we thank you. The county has also been a partner for 44 years. And hidden way back in the back is a little guy named Tom Green with an organization called United Power that's also been a partner of ours for over 23 years. I wanted to highlight a few of our folks that have done extremely great things for us in our community. City of Commerce City, Adams County, Community Credit Choice, Community Choice Credit Union, our food bank that we partner with, the school district, who you've heard from many folks. I represent a foundation. It's kind of weird also to say my wife's name, but I better do it, or else, as you all know who have significant others, if you don't, you get in trouble when you get home. So Elemental Photography. BIMBO, South Adams County, Stout Street, Adams City High School, and of course, all of our wonderful winners of our different awards. Got to switch to a different section. As you've just witnessed, we have all of our beautiful award winners, and this is something we do on an annual basis. And we wanted to keep going. Go on to the next. Reba.
Oh, sorry.
She's looking at me. We have a long history, and what you can see up here is that this dates back over 44 years, but look at the names up there. You recognize those names. They've been around in our community for a long time, and they continue to be supportive of not only CCBPA, but also our community. So those are our Business of the Year Award winners. We also have all of our individual persons of the year. These are folks that have given of their time, of their energy, of their talent independently to support our city. Again, if you look at some of those names, you will recognize a lot of them because they've been the backbone and the cornerstone of our community. Is that me? That's you. We're going to switch over.
It loaded.
Oh, one of the things that we want to make sure you know is that we do want to take nominations from the city, from our residents, from anyone. And so up until 12/31/2020, the form's on the website, you can nominate a business or a person to receive this award. One thing that why this night is very important to us is that as an organization, we have no staff. We are completely board run. And so it's important that we're able to find low-cost ways to present our awards so that all the money that we raise goes straight back into Winterfest, that it goes right back into Trick or Treat Street, that it goes back into any of the other services that we can offer as an organization. So we wanted to let you know about that. I'll turn it over to Heather.
Good evening. I just wanted to introduce all of our current board members. These individuals have been longtime members in our community and serve in many different ways. First and foremost, Tom Green, please stand up. He's our past president. He does represent United Power. And this is on our website as well, so I'm not going to read everything. You guys can go onto the website and read the bios and resumes. Just a really outstanding group of people. Myself, Heather LaCrue, I'm the president. I'm actually born and raised in Commerce City, so I have a lot of roots here and a lot of passion for my city, and I'm very proud to be here. Maria Carbajal is our vice president. Dale Mingleton is our treasurer. We just heard from him. And we also have next in line our Barb Human. She's the secretary. Rick Teeter is one of our directors. Our newest member is Mayor Ben Huseman. And of course, Reba Drotar is our another director. So just a really great group of people serving our community, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody was represented tonight. Thank you.
Got a little script here I need to read. And you know I'm just a great reader too, right? What is CCBPA? CCBPA is the brainchild of Shirley Leeper, who was the very successful Commerce City businesswoman and community leader who was certainly ahead of her time. She partnered with civil leaders in the state as early as 1970 for express purpose and bringing a quality and safe environment to the children, the families, and the businesses of Commerce City. CCBPA was also established to exchange now new businesses and nonprofits and to bring all parties, including government entities, to the table. While it started in the Derby area and it was considered downtown Commerce City at the time, the same leaders and other participants in helping to campaign for the annexation of the lands to the north and to help build the vibrant city we have today. Among other things, the CCBPA is that facilitator for Commerce City, annually Winterfest, as well as annual Trick or Treat Street, which serves thousands of children every year. The CCBPA was formally registered at the Colorado Nonprofit Corporation on August 29, 1991, and is now strictly managed by volunteers. No one who has ever been paid as of funds donated and raised go to the events and the programs that benefit the families and businesses of Commerce City. Who are we? The Commerce City Business and Professional Associations is the principal voices of businesses helping communities and communities helping businesses in the Commerce City community. We are a diverse group of men, women, children, and senior citizens devoted to promoting the quality of a life and economic stability of our entire community. We are comprised of businesses, nonprofits, organizations, and governmental entities. Who we serve. Those interested in promoting prosperity of the city of Commerce City. Mission statement. The association's mission is to serve the Commerce City community through the promotional, entertainment, and development of local businesses, nonprofits, and schools. The CCBPA accomplishes these through strategic partnership, nurturing and serving current and prospective members. CCBPA membership. Become a member and join Commerce City. And the membership information form available by email at commercecityccbpa@gmail.com. This award tonight was dedicated by a young lady named Shirley Leeper. She, Commerce City Business and Professional Association, she's presenting the Shirley Leeper Outstanding Leadership Memorial Award. There's a full page here that I'm not going to read it all, but she was born in 1930. She attended Union High School, or Adams City High School, in 1948. Her father was the first mayor of Commerce City, known back then as Commerce Town. She married a Harlow Leeper, where she met in the first grade, and she continued to her and Harlow continued to romance all the way through high school, and were married in 1952. I'm just going to touch on a few of the things she's very instrumental in. Shirley had a greenhouse in Commerce City and a floral business for over 30 years. She started the DECA Club program at School District 14. She was a president at times at the Floral Association. She was involved with the Adams County Historical Society and the Commerce City Historical Society. She started the Women's Adams County Association. She was this very organization, the CCBPA, was formerly known as the Merchants Association. She even started a club called the Shirley Club. So your name you had to have a name of Shirley to get into her club. Harlow was a veteran. Her husband Harlow was a veteran. He also is a realtor in Commerce City and Adams County still today. He was a fireman for 20 years. He was instrumental in starting the first ever burn unit in Colorado, which was named after South Adams County Fire Department. And this letter that I have here, if you want to read this full letter, it's going to go into the complete history of Shirley. And this letter was composed by Deborah Bullock of the Commerce City Business and Professional Association. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. We want to invite you, if you'd like, to our monthly meeting. We meet on the first Monday of the month from 12:30 to 1:30 at the Adams 14 ESS building, which is right across the street from Walmart. We keep our meetings to an hour. We're pretty good about that. 12:30 to 1:30, and you'll be out of there. Our monthly meetings are listed on our website. Want to highlight a couple of our two events. You've heard about our Trick or Treat Street. That's coming up in October 27th. Last year, the school district closed, of all things, on our Trick or Treat Street. So we decided to add a snow day. So if we get snow on October 27th, we will have a Trick or Treat Street on the 29th. That's something we added. Again, Winterfest, you know, is the first Saturday in December. It's so much fun. You guys got to come out there. Mr. and Mrs. Santa's there. The firemen come, they bring Santa. It's just such a wonderful event, gets you in the mood. We all dress up kind of goofy with our ugly sweaters and everything, and the kids just love it. They have a DJ and they dance and stuff. So please come out and see the community, because that's where everything is happening, is when we're all together as a family, as a group, as a community. So thank you very much.
So that concludes our presentation, and we just thought you should know what CCBPA was all about and how long we've been here and what we've been up to. And we just thank you so much for this opportunity. And we'll come back next year because we think we have a big surprise for you then in the works.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the CCBPA before they depart? Thank you again, everybody, for being here. Thank you for your time in the presentation. Again, thank you for the award. Congratulations one last time to all the award winners, and have a safe trip home tonight. Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is citizen communication. Per council policy, citizen communication is the time on our agenda for the public to address council on business and affairs of the city. If you are here to speak on an ordinance or resolution that is not on the consent agenda, please wait until that item is called. The city council is not able to hear any comments at this time on land use matters that are before or may come before council. This includes the zoning case that is being considered tonight on second reading. Please reserve such comments for the appropriate public hearing. As a reminder, council must wait until administrative council business to take action in response to citizen communication. When you come forward, please give your name and address for the record and keep your comments limited to 3 minutes. Thank you. I have a couple individuals. First up is Jim Travis.
Good evening. My name is Jim Travis. I live at 10233 Salida Street in Reunion. Thank you all for allowing the time to speak tonight. I've always admired people that wanted to get into politics. Most of them are community-minded and want to make a difference. We elect these people trusting they will have our best interests at heart, and in exchange, we as constituents trust they will be honest with us. At this very moment, we have a city council member that has been extremely dishonest with Commerce City residents regarding the Oakwood Homes expansion between Highway 2 and Potomac on 104th. Recently, I engaged in a conversation on a social media platform with this particular council member after they made an incredibly misleading statement. The council member claimed that Mr. Kelly Lead of Oakwood Homes stated that funding for the expansion hinged on a carve-out for a natural resource district, which is categorically false. In fact, the opposite was stated by Mr. Lead's associate, Mr. Jim Hughes. Myself and others immediately called out this council member at the inaccuracy of the statement. Instead of a retraction or an apology, the council member seemingly tried to blame the home builder for the council member's own lie by implying they intentionally left out the natural resource district in their presentation to the city council. To me, this was an attempt to distract those following the conversation away from the blatant lie. One of the best or worst parts of social media is that a digital imprint is always left behind. In this particular instance, I have multiple screenshots of the conversation between this council member and others pointing out the inaccuracy of the statement. You know, people get into politics for any number of reasons. Occasionally, a single issue activist is elected, which in and of itself is fine, provided they are honest. Far too often, as it is true in this particular instance, the end seemingly justifies the means in an attempt to promote their own personal activism. Sadly, the means in this situation was a blatant lie told to Commerce City constituents. Now, I'm a forgiving person and do believe in second chances to those that take the steps to earn them. You will notice up to this point I've not referenced the name, nor will I, if the person responsible for the lie apologizes publicly on their council member Facebook page, where the post is to be left up permanently. It is the job of the city council to look out for well-being of residents. It is the job of the residents to hold public officials accountable when they do not. Sadly, I'm here tonight to hold this particular city council member responsible. If an apology doesn't happen by our next city council meeting, my hand will be forced, and I'll be back with the screenshots of the conversation, and will submit these documents as a matter of public record. To the council member responsible, I hope you do the right thing. And I'll even take you up on your offer to get coffee once the apology is made. Thank you all for your time tonight. Appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Next up is Ron Bruce.
Ron Bruce, 15800 East 121st Avenue. Mr. Mayor, Council, that was a tough act to follow. You have a publicly perceived conflict of interest case, which I brought up to the council during the last general meeting. Last week, Mr. Sheasley gave us a general overview of the conflict of interest and council policy considerations. He also offered an opinion regarding this case that he did not consider it a conflict of interest. We at NRCC respectfully disagree with that opinion because there was only one factor considered. This particular conflict of interest case has a number of parameters that need to be considered. If it is possible, we recommend that the council obtain an advisory opinion from the Independent Ethics Commission for the following reasons. It would be from a neutral third party. It would eliminate a possible friction point for the city council. I believe it's free, so you don't have to pay for a board of municipal attorneys. It would address the points brought up by council members Noble and Guardiola in that it does not infringe on peer review, which was a concern of Councilman Medeiros. In the end, if the conflict came back the opinion came back as a conflict, the council could still determine its next actions, possibly using the new guidelines. If it came back no conflict, the council member could use the opinion as an affirmative defense in the case of any future complaints. If a public officer is appointed for this process, I would be willing to provide my input. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Sean Cuevo.
Good evening, Council. I'm Sean Cuevo from Villages of Buffalo Run. Last week, I had an opportunity to sit in during the special meeting regarding the ethics policy. It was a very informative meeting, and I thank you all for making it open to the public. However, I was particularly surprised when the attorney mentioned that he does not believe employment in the industry does not constitute a conflict of interest. And he explicitly mentioned Councilwoman Grimes' employment at PetroShare Corp. A quick search on LinkedIn shows that her job title at PetroShare is permitting and regulatory manager and has worked in the oil and gas industry for most of her career. After that company filed for bankruptcy back in earlier last year, the CEO was quoted saying the new Colorado regulatory environment governing oil and gas, permitting in the state, and the associated uncertainty in rulemaking has made it very difficult to attract new capital in this space, in this sector. We have a company that cited the regulatory environment of oil and gas as a reason for filing bankruptcy, and a council member that works for said company, managing the same regulations that you now have the opportunity to implement for the city. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the legal standard for conflict of interest is, but I know as a citizen that this does not look good. This is not just someone that has a certain set of knowledge or opinions on an issue, but someone whose employment, whose livelihood is tied to the same entity that you are meant to regulate. That financial incentive is hard to overlook. Questions will inevitably rise from the public. Will your employer will you be pressured by your employer to make decisions favorable to them? Will any compensation increases or promotions be influenced by your ability to deliver favorable regulation? Will your employer now have unfair advantage over other oil and gas companies because they do not have an employee on the council? I'm not accusing you of anything. I don't know you personally. But all of this could realistically happen. That's the point. Every citizen of Commerce City cannot possibly get to know every single member of the council, to know their integrity, to know their character. And that is why this appearance of the situation is so important to note. Faith in government is at an all-time low because regulatory capture seems to be rampant in our country. It so often feels like our government doesn't work for us anymore, but it rather serves corporate interests instead. Words aren't enough. To simply say that you don't have this conflict is not enough. Last week, when discussing the ethics of gifts, the attorney said you probably shouldn't just accept any gifts at all because it looks that bad. The appearance of a financial incentive is that strong. So tonight I'm asking you, Councilwoman, as a commitment to the transparency in government that you campaigned on, to abstain from voting on any issues related to oil and gas, such as regulations, ROAs, moratoriums, rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Douglas?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and my condolences to you, Nicole. Sorry for your loss. I'm here tonight. 2 weeks ago, I didn't have the ability to speak. And it would be nice, I know being on the council, when someone didn't sign up, it would be nice, Mayor, if you could ask if there's anybody in the audience that would like to speak on citizens communication who did not sign up. I would appreciate that in the future. I'm here tonight, 2 weeks ago, not be able to speak on, we had the hearing, this is not on the second, but on the first, and I was here, I was the only one opposing the zoning. And this last meeting, I mean, as far as the update, the opposition, I was the opposition, and that was not brought up, and I want to state that for the record. Also, with the shares of extraction being going down every day, it went up a little bit and is going down. They are not a viable resource as far as being able to start and finish their project based on their financial viability. And I understand also was talked about was transfers, assignment of a permit. With that, oil and gas permits do not run with the land, so any changes in tenancy or ownership management requirement of issue of a new permit. I understand there's a new RA that's coming forward from a country called Petro. I'm not sure if Petro shares, but potentially they would like to enter into their own ROA. And so if they have anything to do with the current permits, that process needs to start over and then make sure that, again, oil and gas permits do not run with the land on any changes. Also, air quality with Suncor. Suncor gave a presentation about self-monitoring. And I know that's state regulation, federal. And I also have gone down and talked to, at State Capitol, there was a hearing just a couple weeks ago, Senate Bill 1143 that deals with air quality commission. Emissions. And one of them was not to have these companies that emit so much pollution to do self-monitoring. The state needs to have monitors in place so they know what's going on, so they can actually verify when a violation has been met or has not been met, that they're held accountable. And also violations as far as fines. Right now, the current fines between $10,000 and $15,000, and they're trying to go with the federal fine, which is $45,000. So just take that into consideration. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Goodmanson, I have you signed up, says we'll email. Did you want to speak? What's that? Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't know if you were planning on emailing your comments or if you wanted to speak, so.
I had something prepared other than what I'm getting ready to talk to, just because of what the city presented during the oil and gas presentation. In the past, the city has been disputing the Antelope pad, which is the pad that's off of Highway 2 and 104th. That pad is so close to homes that it would be unconscionable to allow them to drill there. You've got a school in that area. You have new development that's being proposed south of 104th and Highway 2. You have a school in the Turnberry neighborhood and new houses being built right next to Turnberry. It is unconscionable for anyone to think that that is a good place to drill for oil and gas. The city filed a response with the COGCC, telling them that they were definitely going to dispute that because of the proximity of that pad to the homes and the school. I'm hoping that the city does not change their mind. Now that we have the new rules in place, I would hope that we're going to be a little bit more stringent with them because of the proximity to homes and schools that those pads present. I would also like to touch on the fact that extraction oil and gas and their financial viability is practically zero to none. I want to know I don't want to know. What I'm suggesting is that if they do not take advantage of the applications and the sites that they have proposed already and decide to hand off their sites to someone else, you make that new company file a new application. A new application should be filed whether they are extraction is going to give away to whoever they're going to give it to. We need to make sure that a new application is filed. We shouldn't just be handing off these sites just because extraction is not viable. And to enter into any type of financial situation with extraction at this point would be criminal at the most, because they're being investigated by the SEC for investor trading fraud, and their stocks closed at 66 cents today. So I would suggest that you look at their financial stability before you make any decisions. And once again, whoever's going to take over their sites, file new applications to drill and not just hand over a bunch of new sites to a new company.
Thank you. That concludes our citizen communication. We'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes items that are routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial. They are presented to council for a single motion and vote. Any member of council may ask to remove a specific item for further discussion and a separate vote. Tonight, there are 7 items listed under the consent agenda. Does anyone on council wish to remove an item off the consent agenda for further discussion? Seeing no requests, I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Councilman Madera? Councilman Hurst?
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda by council as seated. Would the city attorney please read the titles?
Minutes of February 3, 2020. Minutes of the February 24, 2020 special meeting. Ordinance 2257, an ordinance amending the 2020 budget of the city of Commerce City, Colorado by transferring $87,500 from the lottery fund to the CIPP fund for costs associated with the Ragweed Draw Ball Fields project and authorization of the expenditure thereof. Ordinance 2261, an ordinance establishing a Veterans Commission and amending the Commerce City Revised Municipal Code relative to such commission. Resolution 2020-23, resolution authorizing award of contract for Veterans Memorial Park, inclusive playground equipment to Landscape Structures, Inc. Resolution 2020-24, resolution approving intergovernmental agreement between the City of Commerce City and the Regional Transportation District regarding artwork for the North Metro Rail Line. Resolution 2020-25, resolution approving intergovernmental agreement between Adams County, Colorado, and the cities of Arvada, Brighton, Commerce City, Federal Heights, North Glen, Thornton, Westminster, and the town of Bennett for distributing the state funds received through the Census Outreach Grant Program pursuant to CRS 2432125.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. The title's been read. We'll take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Noble.
For the record, consent agenda passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is, would the council like to take a recess or press forward? Press? Moving on. No recess tonight. Ordinance on first reading. First up is ordinance 2258, amending the sales and use tax credit. Does anyone on council have any questions for the staff on this item? Seeing none, does anyone in the audience want to address council on this item? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion and a second to introduce 2258, ordinance 2258 by council as seated, and approve the ordinance on first reading. Mayor Pro Tem Frank.
A motion to introduce ordinance 2258 by council as seated.
I have a motion, Councilman Madera. I have a motion and a second to introduce on Ordinance 2258 by council is seated and approve the ordinance on first reading. Would the city attorney please read the title?
Ordinance 2258, an ordinance amending the Commerce City Sales and Use Tax Code, Article 1 of Chapter 20 of the Commerce City Revised Municipal Code to adopt and incorporate certain standardized sales and use tax definitions recommended by the Colorado Municipal League and accomplishing related matters.
Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing no request for discussion, we'll take a roll call vote. For the record, it passes unanimously on first reading and is introduced. Next up is ordinance 2262, recognition of Bulletproof Vest Grant Fund. Does anyone on council have questions for staff regarding this ordinance? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or would like to address the council on this matter? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2262 by council as seated and approve the ordinance on first reading. Councilman Madera. Councilman Hurst.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2262 by council as seated. Would the city attorney please read the title?
Ordinance 2262, an ordinance amending the 2020 budget of the City of Commerce City, Colorado by the recognition of the Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant Funds in the amount of $11,804.60 for the Bulletproof Vest program in the police department and the authorization of the expenditure thereof.
Title has been read. Is there any discussion? Seeing no request for discussion, we'll take a roll call vote. For the record, that passes unanimously as introduced on first reading by council as seated. Next up is ordinance 2264, reappropriation for turf installation at Stewart Middle School and improvements at 3 locations. Does anyone on council have questions for staff? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address council on this matter? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2264 by council as seated and approve the ordinance on first reading. Councilman Madera. Mayor Pro Tem Frank.
Second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2264 by council as seated and approve the ordinance on first reading. Would the city attorney please read the title?
Ordinance 2264, an ordinance amending the 2020 budget of the City of Commerce City, Colorado by appropriating a portion of the unencumbered fund balance of the Commerce City Brighton School District Use Tax Fund in the amount of $714,450 for installation of synthetic turf at Stewart Middle School and transferring $500,000 from the CCBSD fund to the CIPP fund for sports field improvements at 3 locations and authorization of the expenditure thereof.
I have a motion and a second. The attorney has read the title. Is there any discussion requested? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Noble.
For the record, that passes unanimously as introduced on first reading. Next is going to be ordinances 2267, recognition of funds for census outreach and public art at the RTD station. Is there anyone on council who has questions for staff? Seeing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address council on this matter? Seeing none, looking for a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2267 by council as seated and approve the ordinance on first reading. Mayor Pro Tem Frank.
Motion to introduce ordinance 2267 by council as seated.
Councilman Hurst.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to introduce ordinance 2267 by council as seated and approve the ordinance on first reading. Will the city attorney please read the title?
Ordinance 2267, an ordinance amending the 2020 budget of the City of Commerce City, Colorado by the recognition of funds from Adams County for state funds received through the Census Outreach Grant Program and funds for the Regional Transportation District for public art at the North Metro Rail Line and authorizing related matters.
I have a motion and a second. The city attorney has read the title. Is there anyone wanting to discuss the items? We'll take a roll call vote. For the record, that passes unanimously as introduced on first reading. Next on the agenda is ordinances on second reading. Ordinance Z 953-18-20, replacement PUD at East 88th and Tower Road. This ordinance was not approved unanimously and therefore was not eligible to be approved on the consent agenda. The public hearing has closed and no public comment can be made. Mayor Pro Tem and Council Members Madera and Smith, who were absent on February 3rd, have you fully reviewed the record in the public hearing and wish to participate? Councilman Madera? Yes, you have. Councilwoman Smith?
Yes, I have.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank?
No, I have not.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank will not participate in this vote. I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve ordinance Z-953-18-20 on second and final reading. Councilwoman Grimes.
I'd like to make a motion to take a brief recess.
I have a motion for a brief recess. Anyone want to second that? I
I'll
can't.
second.
All right, have a motion and a second to recess. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. That's 2, so we are 6-3, so we are going to recess for 10 minutes. Thank you. All right, we will re-adjourn our meeting. We were in the middle of ordinance on second reading, the replacement PUD at East 88th and Tower. Do want to make one comment before we do proceed with the motions to proceed that because this went through the Planning Commission, it will take 5 votes to override the vote of the Planning Commission. So I think everybody understands what I'm saying there, right? 5 votes would be required, great. So at this time, I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve ordinance Z-953-18-20. Mayor Pro Tem Frank? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, you can't. Councilman Wadiola? Councilman Hurst?
Like a motion to approve on second reading ordinance Z 953-18-20.
I have a motion to approve on second reading ordinance Z-953-18-20. Councilman Madera? Yes. Yes, it is. I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance Z-953-1820. I'll ask the city attorney to read the title.
Ordinance Z 953-18-20, an ordinance approving a replacement PUD zone document for approximately 600 acres to allow residential, commercial, parks and schools, office/flex, and subsurface extraction of oil and gas for the property generally located on the northeast corner of East 88th Avenue and Tower Road in Commerce City, Colorado, currently zoned PUD.
I have a motion and a second. The city attorney has read the title. Is there any discussion? Seeing no request for discussion, we'll take a roll call vote. For the record, the motion passes 6-2 with 1 abstention. And we're moving on. Next on the agenda is administrative business. First up, we need to discuss the Veterans Commission that was approved on second reading during the consent agenda. Are there any council members that are currently desiring to serve as council liaisons for the Veterans Commission? We have it on the ordinance or resolution that we will have 2 positions. Councilman Wadiola? Those meeting dates have not been set yet, so that would have to be determined at that point.
I would be interested depending on if they meet in the evenings.
All right, Councilman Wadiola would like to serve. Councilwoman Smith?
I'd like to serve on the Veterans Commission.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Frank? No, all right. Is there anybody else that wishes to serve as a council liaison for the Veterans Commission? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve those 2 individuals to serve as council liaisons. Mayor Pro Tem Frank?
Motion to approve Councilman Guardiola and Councilwoman Smith as the council members appointed to the Veterans Commission.
And Councilman Hurst?
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to appoint Councilman Wadiola and Councilwoman Smith to serve as council liaisons for the Veterans Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Congratulations. Next, we need to discuss the ex officio members. The script says 3, but I think the resolution says there are 2. Can I get confirmation on that? But basically, we have the opportunity to have ex officio positions for the city manager office or their designee, as well as just individuals to serve veterans in the city. Are there any recommendations at this time for people to be the ex officio members?
Mayor?
Yes.
For clarification, the ordinance reads that up to 9 regular voting members and 2 alternates, 2 city council members who shall be non-voting, and 3 non-voting ex officio members.
It is 3. Okay, thank you. That was the 2 that confused me there. Seeing no recommendations at this time, we will push that off for a later time to determine who that is. Next on the administrative business is revised minutes of December 18, 2019. I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the revised minutes of December 18, 2019. The packet contains the original draft as well. Councilman Hurst.
I'd like to run a motion to approve the revised minutes of December 18th, 2019.
Councilman Madera. I have a motion and a second to approve the revised minutes of December 18th, 2019. Any discussion? Councilwoman Noble.
I am a little confused as to why these read the way they do again. All of the other council members' comments have been removed from the minutes, including comments that I made that were in the original minutes. And instead, the addition, which was the sole thing I was asking for, is the only thing that shows in the minutes. This is a record of the meeting. It was a special meeting on oil and gas, and the fact that it keeps getting changed is very confusing to me. Maybe it's because I'm a new council member and I don't really understand how minutes work, but I just don't understand. Also, I did take the time to reach out to the COGCC directly, to Julie Murphy, who then copied in Jeff Robbins and another employee at the COGCC about distances on cultural districts, and it's 1,000 feet from the boundary, not from the wellhead. I sent that information also to city staff. So anyway, I'm very confused. I know it's not a big deal, but it just represents something very strange to me when it's an important issue like oil and gas, why these minutes keep changing. When I only wanted to do one simple thing, which was to add an item which described local authority, the local authority that's available in SB 181, which I had commented and stated during the meeting.
Does the city manager or the city attorney wish to respond to those comments?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As I mentioned at the meeting when we originally introduced a revised draft and pushed these off, minutes generally are not intended to be verbatim transcripts or to represent everything that was said, especially when there's a significant back and forth over the course of multiple hours. I had identified one item, at least in the draft minutes, that indicated something that I had said that was not an accurate reflection, and therefore had made a recommendation that any attempt to have a verbatim transcript had been removed, and that was what City Council, I believe, endorsed at a study session when I originally had presented a revised draft. I normally am not involved in reviewing minutes in any way, but in this case, because of the initial request to modify it, we made sure that the specific comment that the councilwoman had an interest in including was included, but removed the remainder because it was not an accurate reflection of the conversation.
Councilman Hurst.
This is a question, but for the record, that entire meeting is still going to be retained on video, correct? All right, thank you.
Councilwoman Noble.
Okay, I don't recall, when you handed it out, it wasn't shown to me first, which I would hope would be a normal courtesy just to see the draft for no other reason, and I don't think that there was necessarily consensus. I remain confused. When we had the oil and gas focus groups, every single meeting had minutes that for all of those. This was a special meeting on oil and gas. This wasn't a typical meeting of the city council. So I'm fine if, because the section I wanted included is included, but the Megan's comments are gone, Craig's comments are gone, Jennifer's comments are gone. And I don't think, and other comments of mine are gone, and I don't think that was necessary. No one asked to have all of those removed. No one. And I most certainly did not.
Councilwoman Grimes?
Just another question. Weren't the original minutes retained? This is a corrected set of minutes that will be added to?
Correct. This, if approved, the revised set would be the official record of that meeting. The record of this meeting, the packet for this meeting, and several other meetings includes the original draft minutes.
Seeing no other discussion, we will take a voice vote. Actually, can you cue that up for a roll call? Thank you. For the record, the minutes from the December 18th, 2019 special meeting on oil and gas are approved on a vote of 6-3. All right, next up, are there any council members that have administrative business they would like to discuss? Councilman Wadiola.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to bring a proposal. You guys should have had a copy at your seat, and it's to request a second Civic Academy in 2020 as a bilingual class. We have a lot of Spanish-speaking residents that I think would benefit from a class like this out in the community. They're asking why isn't it not? I thought I was under the understanding that we were. We are not, and this is kind of a good compromise, I think, to let the staff prepare. What we're asking for is it would run June through October, and it would be estimated budget of $6,000 to hit that population. So I guess I want a motion to include a second Civic Academy as a bilingual class for June through October for the budget of $6,000.
I have a motion for a second Civic Academy to be held in 2020 that would be bilingual. Councilman Madera. I have a motion and a second to have a second Civics Academy in 2020 that would be bilingual. Is there any discussion on this item? Councilman Hurst.
I fully support that, as I gained valuable knowledge in that class myself, and so making it as accessible as possible for our community is something that I will continue to support.
Very good. Any other discussion? I have a motion and a second for the second Civics Academy in 2020 that would be bilingual. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed say nay. That event will take place. Thank you very much. Any other council members with administrative council business at this time? Councilwoman Noble.
I have several things. I'd love to express my gratitude publicly to the staff for their responsiveness to the residents of Ward 4 over the past month or so. Particularly, I'd like to thank Mr. Bickbroom, Ms. Peters, and the Public Works staff. So we had an issue with pickup parking at near Landmark Academy, and there was some assistance there for the residents in the area. It can be a bit of an imposition on a daily basis. Also, we had a lot of potholes and chips along Landmark, Heartland, and over near the coffee house, and those got taken care of very rapidly, made everyone very happy, so thank you all very much. I also want to congratulate all of the Commerce City residents who have stepped forward to run for a seat on the board of their metro districts. Those self-nomination forms were due on Friday. When I saw Kelly Lead last week, one of the things he noted was that Districts 1 and Districts 2 of the Reunion Metro District will now be all residents because of the number of self-nomination forms that they received. So I think that's really great. And do we have an update on the Metro District, the city's Metro District form?
I have several updates for you this evening, but that was one of them.
Okay, I'll wait. I can wait until you're ready. Okay. And then I just want to go back to an agenda item tonight was described as the council's quarterly update from Suncor, and I don't recall us discussing a quarterly update from Suncor. I thought it was helpful. I don't have an issue with it, but I would like to remind everyone that there was a motion at the December 16th meeting, and the minutes were approved. The motion was made by Councilmember Noble, seconded by Councilmember Guardiola, to direct the city manager to include any reports of abnormalities at the Suncor facility to be part of the oil and gas monthly updates. Councilmember Guardiola requested the motion be amended to include all activity at the Suncor facility in the monthly update. Councilmember Noble accepted the amendment. The vote was unanimous. All present affirmed, and that was all 9 council members. So the monthly oil and gas updates are to include an update on incidents and other activity from Suncor Refinery. If we need to vote on whether Suncor Refinery makes a presentation quarterly, then perhaps we should either put that on the agenda or do so now, but that isn't something that we had voted on previously. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, would you like to address why Suncor is coming in quarterly at this time?
Yes, we have included Suncor in our monthly oil and gas update, as Ms. Noble just indicated. And in our discussions with them, we talked about having them physically come and do a presentation once a quarter. So all of the months will include information from Suncor, but one of those every quarter will be the last one of the quarter. We've already set those dates with them for the remainder of the year. Will be in-person presentations and an opportunity for council to ask questions of them and have them here.
And can you explain why council did not vote on that?
Council doesn't have to take a vote to have that occur. You certainly could vote to not have that occur going forward, but that is the direction that we received from council, and our discussion with Suncor, that was the outcome of that conversation.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Wadiola, you had a
When
comment?
was the direction from council?
The direction that you read from the minutes is what precipitated the conversation that led to the agreement with staff and Suncor that they would provide a written monthly update for us that would be included in the oil and gas report, and that one presentation out of each quarter they would come and be present so that they could interact with you, answer questions, provide you additional information, essentially a verbal update that would normally be in the written oil and gas report.
Yeah, I would just like to be very, very clear that this was at worst, or at best, third-party verification. And I had spoken with staff about that as well, that was the intention. And you will notice that this evening I had to ask specifically about incidents that had been self-reported, that they were not included in the report from Suncor Refinery. So I think this is very important going forward, that we be as transparent with our residents as possible, that it is their lives and their homes, their children, their families, their health, their safety that is at risk, and that is my paramount concern. Thank you.
Councilman Wadiola.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a good opportunity to start that dialogue of what we asked for, being proactive and just getting as much as information as we can to be transparent. So I would appreciate that. Thank you guys for reaching out and doing that for us.
Councilwoman Allen Thomas.
It's not a report, but I had the pleasure of attending the Adams 14 Education Foundation last Thursday. Unfortunately, it's a conflict with my scheduled to stay on this board, so I'm just putting it out to the mayor and city council that I will unable to fill my seat on the Adams 14 Education Foundation. Thank you.
Councilwoman Allen Thomas cannot fulfill her duties to sit on the Adams 14 Education Foundation. Is there another council member that wishes to take that role?
The meetings are the fourth Thursday of every month from 11:30 to 1:30, 11:30 to 1:30, the fourth Thursday of each month.
Councilman Madera? All right. Seeing no other council members that wish to participate on that, I would like to represent the city on that. Anybody want a motion to allow that to happen? Mayor Pro Tem Frank?
Motion to appoint Mayor Huseman to the Adams 14 Education Board.
Foundation. I have a motion to appoint myself from Mayor Pro Tem Frank to serve on that board. Is there a second? Councilman Madera seconds that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. In the event that I'm unable to attend, I hope we can have a staff member back me up. Thank you. Next up is Councilman Hurst.
Thank you. I got a couple things tonight for administrative business. First, I'd like to comment on the Suncor. I think the presentation that they have quarterly is important, that we have the ability to address our concerns one-on-one in public with their vice president. And then the other side of it is I think we had discussed in pretty good length about the challenges of getting the self-reporting in an immediate turnaround time. The process they go through with CDPHE is as discussed tonight. They report it, it's discussed, they over-report at times, and so it's not immediately available for our city staff to track that down. So I believe it'll take, as Councilman Guardiola pointed out, it'll take some partnership for us to get that in the front end. And so I think we're going to have to continue to work on that relationship with reporting so we can get it to us in a timely manner so it can be shared on a monthly basis so we're not several months behind the ball when we're finding that out. And so I would like to ask the city to try to establish that relationship so we can get it in real time to the best of our abilities. I also like to run a motion tonight for a move to enter executive session pursuant to CRS 246402 for review of the city manager's evaluation, but that will be after a recess to conduct the scheduled GID meetings.
A motion to enter into an executive session for the purpose.
Excuse me, I wanted to comment on.
It's not your time to. Please wait. It's not your time to. He has made a motion. We are addressing the motion. Thank you. I have a motion to enter into executive session regarding the city manager's report that was conducted in November. Do I have a second? Mayor Pro Tem Frank?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to enter into an executive session for the purpose of that. That executive session would occur following the GID meetings that are scheduled for later in the evening. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, now roll call that, please. Uh, 6-3, we have enough votes to go into that meeting, so we will do that following the GID meetings. Was that your last item of discussion, Councilman Hurst?
That will be.
Great.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Noble, would you like to respond to Councilman Hurst's comments regarding Suncor?
Yes, I just wanted to point out that the self-reporting forms are public record, and they're in a database at CDPHE. I have provided the link to that database to city staff. I did so last month.
Thank you for that comment. Councilwoman Allen Thomas.
Yeah, I just have a question in regards to the valuation review with requests at going into executive session. Was there any meetings prior with any council members to arrange this executive session before today? Thank you. Were there any previous meetings with any city council members to request this evaluation process before tonight's meeting today? Because I believe is that correct? You're the one that requested the evaluation. So was there any other meetings?
No, so I guess to clarify my motion, I'm in no way asking to evaluate the city manager whatsoever. I'm asking, we did evaluations in November before this current council was seated. My intention is to bring everybody up to speed on what that evaluation said and what we are to expect in the end of the first quarter, and just to discuss that. I think the time is pertinent because we don't have another time to discuss this with full council before the end of the month, before the end of the quarter.
Okay, but that's not my question. My question is, was there any other meetings arranged with more than 2 city council members to discuss or request the evaluation that is being requested tonight with more than 2 city council members?
No, there was not.
Thank you.
I had discussions about my intentions with a couple people of why I was running this motion. It was an administrative business motion, and we do that in almost every single meeting. We talk about what we're going to add to the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no other requests for administrative council business, I have 4 items that need to be discussed. First off, about a year and a half ago, the city council appointed myself and Councilman Davis to sit on a food hall working group with members of the community and Oakwood Homes regarding the construction of the Grange at the Reunion Center. Given the fact that Councilman Davis is no longer with us, we need to appoint another individual to serve on that working group. Do I have a volunteer for that? Councilman Hurst?
I'll volunteer for that.
Councilman Wadiola?
Wouldn't it make sense to put Ward 4, Ms. Noble on that? I just think that's in her ward. You're kind of the mayor at large, and I think the Ward 4 person should sit on that committee.
Councilwoman Noble, do you want to sit on that working group?
Could you say the name of it again slowly, please?
The Food Hall Working Group.
The what working group?
Food Hall Working Group.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for everyone who doesn't know, I'm actually hard of hearing and I wear hearing aids. I'd like to thank Rich and the team in IT for trying to set me up tonight, but I wasn't able to get here early enough so that we could try and work out a new set of hearing accessory devices to help me hear. So sometimes you may hear me answer a question that may not have been asked. Sometimes I just didn't really hear it clearly at all and don't know what's happening. The good news is you never know when someone's saying something really awful about you because you can't hear them.
You want to sit on the group? Would you want to sit on that committee, Ms. Noble?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
All right, so we have 2 individuals that have expressed interest in sitting on that group. Do me a favor and cue up the roll call. All those in favor of Councilman Hurst sitting on it, please vote. All right. All right, all those in favor of Councilwoman Noble sitting on it, please vote.
Councilmember Noble.
You can abstain. All right, Councilwoman Noble will be the appointed person to serve on that. Great. Next up, we have a request from the Metro Mayor Caucus for us to give a contribution in the amount of $3,000 for the Metro Mayor Caucus and Metro Denver Homeless Initiative Flex Fund. This is a fund that we have contributed to in the past in the amount of $3,000. We gave that contribution in 2015 as well as in 2019. This is something that the city manager's office has budgeted as an expense for us to do so. Should the council wish to contribute to this, I will need a motion to do so. Councilman Wadiola.
Motion to contribute $3,000 to the Metro Mayor Caucus.
Councilman Hurst.
Second that motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. We will give the $3,000. Next up on your dais, you should have a letter written from me to the Director of the Department of Interior. This is a letter that invites them to come to Commerce City to take a tour of the refuge, as well as see all about the Denver metropolitan region and the contributions that the refuge has. I need a motion and a second to approve signing and sending that letter or delivering it in person while we are in her conference room. Councilwoman Grimes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Mayor Huseman to sign and send this letter.
Right, and Mayor Pro Tem Frank.
Second that motion.
Any discussion requested on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. And that one will pass as well. Next up, we, about a year and a half ago or so again, we had a resolution where we waived rec center fees for active duty military, for disabled veterans, for active duty military family, and anybody on National Guard or Reserve who is in active status, for their families to be able to use the recreation centers for free. I know that our police department and the fire department get corporate rate discounts for the recreation center, but I would like to make a motion that we allow first responders who operate in our community, live in our community, to also use our recreation centers for free. That would include the South Adams Fire Department as well as the North Glen Fire Ambulance as well. So currently the North Glen Ambulance Company does not get to use that, so my motion is to allow all of them the same privileges that we have afforded to our military and veterans. Councilwoman Frank? I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Frank.
I'll second that motion.
So I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilman Wadiola?
Is it just the people, those that live in Commerce City?
That's up to you. I said the people that live and work in Commerce City.
Okay, I would second that vote for it in favor if it's for our residents that live in Commerce City.
You don't want to address the people that may not live here but do work here?
You know, I struggle with that because there's tons of people that come and work here, and our first responders, you know, take care of our city, but we have to be very fair too. So, I mean, or we could look at how many actually get that. So I would stick with the ones that live in Commerce City and work in Commerce City.
Councilwoman Grimes?
I'm certainly supportive of such a motion. I'm just curious if we have any idea what the influx of membership would be. I would like Councilman Wadiola, I want to make sure our residents are served first, and overcrowded rec centers are, that's a concern for me. Certainly supportive of the idea and the concept.
Councilwoman Allen Thomas?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Councilman Guardiola, but I would request that it be a requirement that they do live in Commerce City, because I believe in the city and county of Denver, for certain even positions, you do have to live in Denver. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Frank?
I seconded that motion with the understanding that it was residents of Commerce City.
Councilwoman Smith?
For South Adams, is it all South Adams residents, or is it just the people that live in Commerce City? Because there's South Adams firefighters that don't live in Commerce City but still use the rec center.
That's what's currently being debated right now. So it looks like a majority of the people would like to see my motion amended to make it to where you have to be a resident of Commerce City to receive that benefit. So I will amend that motion. Mayor Pro Tem Frank, you seconded the motion. Will you accept that amendment?
Yes.
I have a motion and a second to waive recreation center fees to any first responder who resides in Commerce City. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed say nay. Can you guys please draft a resolution to make that happen? In my understanding, we'll have to vote on this one more time as a resolution.
And also, a quick clarification, you had mentioned Commerce City police officers. Is it the intent to include them as employees? They receive a family membership for $5 currently. Is it your desire to reduce that to zero?
Yes, I had mentioned that we offer a corporate rate discount already to those individuals, and they would be free as well.
Actually, city employees receive a family membership for $5.
Okay. They would be free. Okay, those are the 4 administrative council business items that I have. Any other administrative council business items before we move forward to reports? All right, thank you. Moving forward to reports, City Manager.
Just write down one item for the benefit of the city council. I'm taking some vacation time, the balance of this week through next Monday. With most of you out of town, it seemed like a relatively quiet time to take a bit of time off. Certainly, though, available should an emergency arise, and certainly whoever the acting mayor is, happy to help if some issue arises. During that time, Roger Tinklenberg will be the acting city manager.
Thank you, sir. Before we continue on that, I'm going to go back to administrative council business and address that, given the fact that myself and the Mayor Pro Tem will be out of town from tomorrow morning until late Wednesday. Councilwoman Grimes is appointed as the mayor effective tomorrow morning through our absence. So congratulations, and please do us well. Back to city manager reports and city attorney.
Just to update, at the last council meeting, council directed me to engage special counsel to conduct a review of some of the larger metropolitan districts. I worked through speaking with a number of attorneys, and I'm finalizing an engagement letter with an attorney now with the consent of the city manager, and I believe a reappropriation ordinance will be coming to identify the specific funding for that. So that work should be getting underway shortly. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, you had some updates for us?
I did, thank you. The Metro District Forum, which was mentioned earlier, is set for April 7th. We had to move that date out due to some scheduling conflicts with panel members and facilities. Marketing materials are currently being produced and will be sent out shortly. Can you put this computer up, Dylan? The Commerce City Civics Academy, the second version of this class, again, will be run April 1st through May 13th, with the graduation held at the regular city council meeting on Monday, May 18th. So far, we've received about 10 applications for this class, and we, as you heard earlier, you all approved a second session. That class will actually, the dates for that class will start advertising will be in September. The dates Mr. Guardiola gave you are the amount of time it's going to take us to amend the curriculum and do the things we need to do to convert 1,500 pages of documents into Spanish and all those sorts of things. But the actual class will be run in September, and we will do a flyer similar to this in English and in Spanish with those dates given your direction this evening. I wanted to let you know that all of your boards and commissions, including the Veterans Commission, vacancies are out on the internet. We are accepting applications up through Saturday, March 28th at 5 p.m., and interviews for all of those, including the new Veterans Commission, will be held on Saturday, April 4th. That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Any other council members wishing to make reports? Councilwoman Grimes.
I think this first one may have been more appropriate for administrative business. Is it okay if I ask a request of the city manager? I think that I am missing a couple of committee board appointments on my calendar. It seems that they're not all there. Could we have Annette just double check that schedule, please? And then I also just wanted to say that during Rotary last week, I was present for a medical emergency and wanted to commend North Glen Ambulance Service for their prompt response and courteous service. And I actually didn't realize a couple of them were going to be in the room tonight, but thank you guys very much for your service, and was appreciated in a time of crisis. So thank you.
Councilwoman Noble.
Yes, Mr. Smith, I have a question for you. I was curious about the forum for April 2nd and who is going to be participating? Who will be the speakers or panels or whatever the case may be?
I don't have the names of the folks that we've extended invitations to in front of me, but that's something I could send out to the council.
Just a quick clarification, the tentative date is April 7th.
7th, I'm sorry. Oh, see, there you go. That's me again. Okay, April 7th. And so, a couple of names.
Can you send that list out tomorrow? Do you have access to it?
Like John might be able to provide a few of those names.
Is Mr. Wolfersberger one of them?
I have reached out to Mr. Wolfersberger. He is tentatively going to be one of the panel members. Additionally, we have John Henderson, a homeowner who is involved in his metro district, not in Commerce City, Megan Schrader of the Denver Post, as well as Sam Sharp of the Metro District Education Coalition, and one other name currently that I can't remember, but I'll get that.
Any residents, like I've heard that Buckley Ranch had a successful switch over from developers to residents, and it might be nice hearing.
Yeah, I can reach out to homeowners in the city if we have recommendations for those as well. Any other professionals who are involved in the Metro District.
Okay,
for lack of a better word, industry as well.
So Mr. Wolfersberger is participating?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Susan, just to help answer that, Mr. Wolfersberger helped Buckley Ranch in that success, but I will reach out to the board of directors in Buckley Ranch to see if somebody would offer their services for that.
Councilman Guardiola.
Yeah, just a point of clarification for the city manager. Me and Councilman Hurst were just looking at our calendars, also for Dylan, and for Boards and Commission Committee for April 4th. The old members are still on there, like it's not on his calendar. So maybe going through some of the invites, the Youth Commission, I mean, it didn't change, but just going through some of the invites for the new members. Because he was like, April 4th, it's like, it's on your calendar. He's like, no, it's not. So thank you, Dylan.
Councilman Hurst. All right. Seeing no other requests to give a report, I'll give my report. Last Tuesday morning, I attended the Metro District Municipality Roundtable that was put on by the Metro North Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Sharp, who was referenced as attending our forum, was also there. He is a managing individual in DA Davidson who does a lot of the pro formas, that has the financial documents that is used to determine the taxing ability of a district, so it'll be good to hear from him again. Want to thank the two management analysts who showed up there. Unfortunately, we were afforded 4 people to be able to go, and only 3 of us were there, and I think that's a real shame because we could have used more people there in order to expand the knowledge that takes place. So shame we didn't have our 4th individual there. That afternoon, myself and Mr. Smith met with Mr. Lucas to discuss some ideas concerning partnership with the Wildlife Refuge. More details on that to come out later. We had the grand opening for Mickey's Express, which used to be the old La Casa del Rey Express. Congratulations to them. That afternoon on Friday, I attended the Transportation and Mobility Committee for the Metro Mayor Caucus, where we had a good conversation with the director of the Regional Air Quality Commission, as well as conversations regarding moving forward with trying to find funding for regional transportation projects that need to take place. Saturday morning, myself and Councilman Guardiola attended the Legislators' Town Hall with Representative Benavides and Senator Marino, who were here to talk about some of the initiatives they're working on and things that are going on down at the Capitol. That afternoon in here, I also had a small town hall with some residents that came to talk about their concerns with things going on in the city. And then today I had the privilege of sitting there and reading at Kemp Elementary School in the 5th grade class. We got through 2 books, and appreciate the opportunity and the invitation from Kemp Elementary to come out there and read in order to do that. So that is all for my report. No other follow-up. We will recess to the ECA GID meeting. We'll call the ECA GID meeting to order. Will the secretary please take the roll?
Chair Huseman.
Present.
Vice Chair Frank.
Present.
Board Member Madera. Board Member Allen Thomas.
Present.
Board Member Noble.
Present.
Board Member Guardiola.